It is 10:02. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. The Tennessee Lady Vols are moving on to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2016 as Sarah Puckett drilled a go-ahead corner three with 10 seconds left to give Tennessee the win over Belmont in a thriller 70-67. The Lady Vols will face top-seeded Louisville on Saturday for a spot in the Elite Eight. The Nashville Predators won on the West Coast on Monday 6-3 over the Anaheim Ducks, and Filip Forsberg cannot stop breaking records. 3 assists and 2 goals for number 9 last night as he broke Victor Arvidsson's single-season scoring record with the second goal of the game, his 35th of the season. This just 2 days after Forsberg set a new franchise record for career goals on Saturday, surpassing David Legwand. Matt Duchene grabbed 2 goals as well. That brings him up to 34 on the year. The Preds have won 7 of their last 9 and are at the LA Kings tonight. It's a late puck drop at 9:30. Massive news for Tennessee football on Monday as Josh Heupel secured a commitment from 5-star 2023 quarterback Nico Iamaleava from Long Beach, California, the number 4 QB in his class, the number 7 player in the country per 24/7 Sports. Iamaleava is the highest-rated Tennessee commit since 2015. Changes in the AFC South on Monday as the Indianapolis Colts acquired Falcons quarterback Matt Ryan in a trade for a third-round pick. That deal led to Atlanta turning around and bringing in Marcus Mariota on a 2-year deal worth over $18 million. That reunites Mariota with Arthur Smith. Another NFL news, the New Orleans Saints brought back QB Jameis Winston on a 2-year deal, and running back Leonard Fournette will remain in Tampa Bay, signing a 3-year contract. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome in on this Tuesday. Hope everybody is having a great week, a great morning so far. We're happy to have you in for the next 3 hours. Lucas is back there making it happen. We're jam-packed, loaded with guests, topics to discuss. Your phone calls are welcome throughout the course of today. 615-737-1045. Jump in if you like. 615-737-1045. I got quarterback trades. I got franchise records being broken, winners and losers of the sports weekend to come later this hour as well, so stick around. Got to start, though, with Matt Ryan and what happened, what broke, and what was confirmed in the middle of our show yesterday, that he would be going to the Indianapolis Colts with a 2022 third-round pick being the capital that Atlanta was going to gain. Now, they have a bunch of draft picks down there in full rebuild mode, but there is no team that has botched the last week of transactions more than the Atlanta Falcons. We'll spend some more time on that later because I think there's some really interesting ripple effects to talk about within the division, within the AFC South, right? Because, I mean, if I say to you, that Matt Ryan is the greatest threat in the AFC South since blank, who are you saying?
Andrew Luck.
Luck? Not Watson.
Well, yeah, never mind. Deshaun Watson. If you're saying greatest threat in Indy since who, it would obviously be Andrew Luck. But yeah.
In the division.
In the division, it would be Deshaun Watson.
Because for all of the Colts angst that Titans fans have, which, by the way, I think is getting less and less every year. The further we get removed from, like, the Peyton Manning heydays, the more that Titans fans seem to have self-confidence in their team to be able to handle business because it's been much more even over the course of the last couple of years. But the Watson thing is interesting, right? Because Houston was winning divisions. Indianapolis has not won the division title in quite some time. And Deshaun Watson, while he is a superior talent, I mean, him and Luck was regarded as the better prospect. I don't know that people would say, I think there's a much closer conversation to be had between Andrew Luck and Deshaun Watson because I've seen them both do incredible things, both as college players and then when they came to the pros. But I do think that luck for the Titans presented a greater threat. It felt like Tennessee and Houston always kind of stood on a little more even ground than the rest of the teams in the AFC South. When Houston and Watson and Bill O'Brien were winning divisions, and even before that, when they were doing it, I mean, they won a division with TJ Yates. Wait, that was Gary Kubiak. That wasn't Bill O'Brien.
Gary Kubiak. Can you guess the last time the Colts won the AFC South?
Ooh.
I mean, we've talked about the fact that every other team in the division has won it since their last championship.
I'm gonna say it's been since 2010.
14.
14?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, but 14 was the last one.
So 14 the year that they went to, 14 was the year they went to the AFC title game, right? And then the Patriots blew them out. That was the Deflategate year. I think if my memory is correct on that, Lucas, you might fact check me, but I'm pretty sure that the result of that season, the last time that the Indianapolis Colts won the AFC South, I believe, is after the same season that they hung that godforsaken banner in Lucas Oil that says AFC runners-up, 2014. I'm pretty sure that's the same year. Lucas will see what he can dig up on that. But regardless, Indy got better, right? For all of the pointing and laughing that we were doing at the Colts, rightfully so, you looked at the Matt Ryan situation as the better of the potentially available options. Matt Ryan is a better option at this stage in his career, 10 years older than Baker Mayfield. I think I would prefer to have Matt Ryan over Baker Mayfield, which is crazy to say. And listen, I got anti-Baker bias. There's something about that dude's game that has just never really lived up to the hype to me, but what do I know? Isn't he getting a statue built to him outside of or at the Oklahoma Stadium?
Yes.
That's a thing that's happening?
That is happening.
Can I go back to my statue without championship being a bit of a participation trophy type of thing? You going to let me do that today?
With Baker, yeah, it's a conversation.
Baker made you think about it.
More of a conversation.
Baker made you think about it, but I say it about Pecorino, and you're all hot and bothered back there.
Pecorino spent how many years in Nashville? Baker had how many years in Oklahoma?
I
3?
understand. I'm just saying. It's not as far apart as you think, bud.
In the college game, I do think that should be a requirement.
Makes you think, though. And we'll talk about the Preds, by the way. Filip Forsberg breaking the single-season franchise scoring record. And, by the way, Matt Duchene just tied what was the previous record held by Victor Arvidsson in their victory last night. I wonder how many people were awake to see that. I set out with the intention to watch the Ducks and the Preds last night. And I think the game started around 9 o'clock Central Time. I was nodding off during the first intermission. And I'm like an old man that way. It's tough for me to stay up late with like West Coast basketball games or NHL games. It's always going to be a struggle. But I didn't see him break the damn record.
Yeah, it sucks because things really popped off in the third period.
Well, and because they started so sluggishly. Like I saw Anaheim get up. I saw the answer by Duchene, that crazy goal that he's just, shoved right through the goaltender's legs for Anaheim, and they ended up going 6-3 after, Chris Mason was pretty critical on the broadcast last night, I thought, at least in the early going. And then when you started to see them ramp things back up, you felt pretty good about their chances. They're a fun team right now, man. 37-22-4 at this point, still trying to climb a little higher. And, in fact, they have gotten to third place in the Central Division. So they've made good progress in the last couple of weeks. But the Forsberg thing, man, we didn't talk about the trade deadline at all yesterday until the very, very end. And that's pretty negligent by me. Because what transactions did the Nashville Predators make yesterday?
Jeremy Lauzon was the most significant one, a key depth piece as a defenseman. Traded him from Seattle for a second-round pick. And he did get plenty of time last night.
And so a depth move that's going to continue the stability and try and improve the roster behind the top line guys, but nothing that was going to shake things up like we thought might happen, a month and a half ago, when the rinkside reporter for Bally Sports in St. Louis reported that Filip Forsberg was on the trade block.
A lot of people came out after that, though, and said, there's not really any evidence of this.
there's been precious little. And listen, we're not in David Poyle's meeting rooms. We're not on David Poyle's conference calls or conversations with other teams. We're not in their dressing room, so we don't know how real this actually was, other than that there was a report and that this was a discussion point. Although now, since he's chilling, and you're talking about, I mean, if you read the latest from Adam Vingan of The Athletic, this that was yesterday evening. He put out this story on basically that they're prepared to ride Filip Forsberg's contract out, even though he's trending towards being an $11 million a year player in the NHL. You got $16 million a year already tied up in Matt Duchene and in Ryan Johansson. An $11 million a year contract for Filip Forsberg, that would stretch you pretty thin. But they seem like they don't have a choice now. They're going to ride this out with Filip Forsberg. And this dude with real or imagined motivation that he might have been shopped not that long ago, I mean, he seems pretty hell-bent on making somebody pay for his services substantially in the next calendar year. Alex Daugherty of A to Z Sports is going to join us here in studio. We're going to talk about the Filip Forsberg thing. What is the expectation for the Nashville Predators at this point in the season? Where have they kind of come together since the All-Star break to get this thing back on track? Your phone calls are welcome as well. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back. Here on 104.5 The Zone, we got our buddy Alex Daugherty of A to Z Sports in the house. Preds 6-3 over the Anaheim Ducks last night on the road. Filip Forsberg, now your single-season franchise record holder for the most goals scored for a Nashville Predator.
What's going on?
Hi, buddy.
How are things? It's been a while, but not too long, right?
I don't think so. I feel. When's the last time we had Alex in, Lucas? He's making is this like, what are you hitting me with? This feels like a guilt trip.
No,
what the hell?
I think the last time I was here, we were talking about will Filip Forsberg get traded, and now that hasn't happened.
No, in fact, they're going to ride this mother bleeper out. It would seem, which is going to cost a lot of money. What do you make of this whole situation? How real do you think this was?
Not at all. I don't think there was any chance he was going to trade Filip Forsberg.
Okay.
Okay, think about it for a second. David Poile, for years now, has been complaining that his top lines have not been producing, right? Ever since the Cup run, it's been there's no forward on this team that has been producing to the extent that he wanted them to. He was very public in talking about that after all the first round losses to Dallas and to Carolina and to Arizona, that his forwards were not producing. Well, what's been happening this year? All of the forwards have been producing like crazy, record-breaking years.
Yeah.
Could David Poile really go into that room and say, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to trade one of you now? Like, it would break that room, right? It would totally destroy the chemistry of that room, who has said in as much, yeah, we're not producing, we're not doing our job. And then Matt Duchene is out there having a 30-goal season. Ryan Johansson, career year. Of course, Roman Josi as well, an insane year, which we can talk about. And then Filip Forsberg himself breaking records. I just don't think that David Poile had any chance to trade that guy. There was no way that was going to happen. I don't think there's been a case in hockey history recently, I couldn't think of any, in which a team that's in the playoff race traded ostensibly their best offensive player at the deadline just because they didn't think they could sign him. The most recent case where that didn't happen was John Tavares in New York in New York with the Islanders. Famously, he went to Toronto, so I think people are probably going to get nervous about that. But I don't think we're going to find pictures of Filip Forsberg, wearing Maple Leafs pajamas like they did with John Tavares back in 2018.
Scandal in the hockey world.
So I honestly don't think there's any chance that they would have traded him. I also think very strongly that they will re-sign him. I think that they're going to get a deal done. I don't think David Poile is going to let it happen again.
What is the price range? Because if you read, I assume you read Adam Vingan this morning or last night?
I did not, but I'm assuming it was based on Poile's press conference yesterday.
Correct.
Yeah.
And basically the assessment that Filip Forsberg, based on the metrics that are being cited and the writer's name, Dom
Luszczyszyn?
Okay.
From The Athletic, yeah.
I will take your word for that because that went much smoother out of your mouth than it did out of Lucas and I's earlier this morning. They're saying that by the metrics, he is projecting as an $11 million player, which seems outrageous to me.
Well, by his metrics, and Dom Luszczyszyn's stuff is great. I read his stuff as often as I can. Really smart, analytical approach to hockey. I think his thing is the goals value added or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe games added or something like that. It's basically like a war for hockey. I don't think he's going to make 11. But I've already said before, I think that if he goes to the open market, I think someone could offer him 10 a year. And a lot of people think I'm crazy for that. I look at the numbers and I think, it's 2022. Teams are emerging from the down of the pandemic and things are looking up. And I think some teams know that Filip Forsberg, who's a 27-year-old forward who can score 30 to 40 goals every year, is probably worth that. Realistically, I think he's probably more like around 9.5 maybe. The Predators could do that, by the way. They have $25 million in cap free starting next year. Part of why they traded Ryan Ellis was to get rid of some cap money they could spend on someone like Forsberg. I really feel like a deal gets done. There could be other things. Maybe it's trade protection that Forsberg wants instead, or wants to make sure that he gets, because Poyle is known for not giving that out very easily.
Right.
Roman Josi has gotten it. Pecorine got it. Matt Duchene got a modified one. Forsberg would make sense to get some sort of trade protection. Just maybe what does that look like? So I watched the press conference with David Poyle yesterday, and I saw a guy who knows that he's got to sign this guy. I don't think there's any chance that he's not going to give him the absolute best offer he can make him. I think people are just worried that if he goes to the open market, like you pointed out, this $11 million valuation, perhaps someone out there tries to offer him that, and David Poyle gets outbid. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
and
that's
going to sign him.
Alex Daugherty, A to Z Sports. We're talking Nashville Predators based off their win last night. Filip Forsberg setting records. The trade deadline has passed without, earth-shattering moves like the trading away of the best. I mean, he's the best offensive player on the team right now.
At forward, yeah. I mean, we can't forget that Roman Josi is on pace for a 100-point year. But look, these things kind of work in tandem. You can't have. It's like if you have a great basketball team, there's one guy that's scoring all the points, one guy that has all the assists.
Sure, we just did this with Harold Landry, like right down the block.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't ignore the other guys. Roman Josi's having potentially the best offensive season for a defenseman in 30 years. Brian Leetch in 1992 had 101 points. Roman Josi's on pace to get 100. But yeah, I would say Filip Forsberg's definitely their best offensive weapon at forward. Yeah, for sure.
So with this team right now, because there seemed to be a little, I don't know what you want to call it after the All-Star break, discombobulation with how they were playing. It looked like they were a little out of sync. They've since corrected those. And I thought, I assume you were watching the television broadcast last night, and Chris Mason and Willie Daunick talking about this, I thought Mason was pretty critical about pointing out where they were lacking in the first period defensively, how they seemed to kind of be, not operating at their highest level and taking care of the little things that they needed to be buttoned up on that first goal that Anaheim got. And then you saw them kind of kick it into gear and turn it on. What is this team based on the trajectory and the ebbs and flows of this season as we get closer to the postseason?
One of the things I've noticed with this team under John Hynes that is different than it was under Peter Laviolette. In game, when they have a bad period, or even just a bad stretch, in a game, they can turn it around very easily. Like, maybe easily is not the right word. Quickly. They can turn it around pretty quickly. They can go from having a bad period like they did in the first last night against Anaheim and have a totally different mindset in the second and third. Let's bear in mind, Anaheim's not very good right now, so that's easy to do against that team.
Sure.
But you saw the same thing against Toronto. Toronto comes into town last Saturday. Big game. NHL media galore everywhere. All eyes are on Filip Forsberg. The Predators did not have a great second period. The first period was good. Second period, not so good. And then they turn it on in the third period and just kind of blow the doors off of Toronto and make it a laugher in the end. I don't think I did not see that under Laviolette. I think John Hynes has a really good pulse on this team right now and can kind of turn things in the right direction at the drop of a hat. Why do things happen like that where a team comes out flat? It's 82 games in a season. You're going to have situations where they don't come out, they're not in sync. He also knows how to lean on certain players more than others. I mean, he knows what positions to put the Jeannot, Trennan, Sissons line. He knows when to put them out there, and he almost always nails it because that line just totally can change the game. And then he knows when to activate his top forward. So I think it all comes back to John Hynes, to be honest. And I think that's why Predators fans should be really excited about this team moving forward, because I think they've found a coach that really knows what he's doing and has a good insight onto his team. It's very different than it was 2 years ago under Laviolette, 2.5 years ago under Laviolette.
When did that change under Laviolette, though? Because I mean, that did not seem like the criticism for the bulk of his career here. And then all of a sudden, before that, what was it, the Winter Classic game, everything started to fray and fracture. Well, that was a couple of weeks before that ended up coming down, and everything seemed a bit in shambles. And they go out and get Hynes off the street after he was just let go or recently let go by, what was it, the New Jersey Devils?
Yeah,
And so when did that happen with Laviolette, and how has he kind of rectified that situation?
Well, I think Laviolette's thing is he has this system that works really well, and it's really good at sort of igniting a team, and you don't really have to worry about the player-coach relationship. You plug in the system and it works. I mean, Laviolette has this tendency to after about 3 or 4 years, things kind of just wane. I think it's a personality thing, and Laviolette's just he's a barker.
He seems like a lovely guy.
He's a really mean. He can yell at his players. Hynes probably gets in his players too, but he's a much more of a mentor, teacher, coach, like kind of a more like modern kind of style coach than he is.
Not a barker.
No, not at all. No, he's not like that. So I don't know. I hesitate to say it was always there, because there were times when Laviolette seemed, to really gel with his players. It's just the system kind of wore down, and when you start losing games, it just goes downhill. So, maybe the same thing could happen with Hynes. I just think he's got a really great mindset for how to coach players in 2022 that other coaches like Laviolette really just don't.
Alex Daugherty of A to Z Sports is here with us talking Preds on 104.5 The Zone. At Alex Daugherty 1 is where you can follow him. By the way, check out the On the Preds podcast that he hosts each and every week in the A to Z Sports podcast network feed.
That's
New
right.
episodes every Sunday.
Every Sunday, me and Sean Smith break it down every single week. If you really want to dive into everything that happens with this team, listen to us, please.
Yes. That's exactly why I was plugging.
Please.
Wait, what are you laughing about back there? You're in my ear every other minute about something I need to plug for you.
I do have a question.
What?
Yeah.
Matt Duchene's goal last night, his 34th goal of the season, between the legs, far post. Is that the coolest goal you can score in hockey?
Boy, okay, so
That was badass,
He said
man.
he had never done that before, right? That's the first time he did that in the NHL.
He never even tried it before, but did you see that Forsberg did the same thing last week? I think it's pretty cool that you had 2 goals like that in a week span. Forsberg's 32nd goal, I think, was what it was, against Philadelphia. Very similar goal. And Forsberg has done that same move, I think, 3 times now. I think he's scored between the legs 3 times. So Duchene learning from his teammate, perhaps, about how to make that happen. Duchene has always been an incredibly skilled player.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like when I'm watching those two out there, they're like trying to one-up each other. It's great.
Last night was kind of the best that I've seen that whole group working together in terms of just every time they were on the ice, passes are right where they need to be. The timing is perfect. Their vision in the offensive zone is incredible. And I'm talking about Duchene, Forsberg, Granlund, Yossi, basically everyone who plays on the top power play.
Yeah.
They are insanely in sync with each other right now. And I don't know that we've ever seen that. In fact, in the history of the Predators, there have been 3 players that have finished the season with a point per game pace or higher. 3 players. It's like Dumont, Steve Sullivan, Paul Kariya. 3 players are doing that this year right now.
That's crazy.
Roman Yossi, Forsberg, and Duchene. So 3 on the same team. They've only had 3 ever do that. So, and it seems pretty easily that they'll finish that way. I mean, I know Yossi will. There's no way he won't. But the offensive output right now, we've never seen anything quite like this. And John Hynes is really known more of like kind of a defensive structure, kind of like being defensively sound coach. But part of that is relying on your offensive players to create on their own. And instead of having to push your defense up and activate all the time, he has a system that allows those creative players to be creative. And I think that's been the difference. And you've seen that over the last year or so.
All right, let's talk about the captain. Roman Yossi is playing at an incredible rate, as we've discussed. He's the NHL's first star of the week, as was assigned, I believe, yesterday afternoon. Career highs in goals, 17, assists, 58, points, 75. It's the second most goals among NHL blue liners in NHL history. This dude is out of his mind right now.
It's crazy. He's scoring goals, and he's not doing it. A lot of times what you'll see with defensemen who score a lot of goals is they have a crazy high shooting percentage. And basically what that means is they're getting a little bit lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, like Brent Burns a few years ago, I think he shot like 20% or something. That's crazy for a defenseman. I think Roman Yossi's at like 10%. I mean, it's like a really reasonable average. He's not doing it by just getting lucky. He's doing it with incredibly good skating. He knows how to create shots for himself. He knows how to create shots for others. The assist number is crazy to me because I think it was a couple weeks ago, we were talking about on our podcast, kind of ranking what order do we think all these records are going to be broken in. And I think we were like, all right, Forsberg's going to break the the career record first, and then he'll break the single season record. Duchesne will do the same thing, and then maybe something else will happen. Oh yeah, by the way, Roman Josi will break the assist record. He did it like 2 days later. I mean, it was like insane. He's had so many multi-point games. He's had 3 assist nights all over the place. Like I said earlier, he's on pace to have the first 100-point season for a defenseman in 30 years. The real sticking point, and I think what could be interesting to see, is will he do that and not win the Norris Trophy? Because that could happen.
Well, now, statistically, he's having a better season than when he won the Norris Trophy. I'm correct?
By far, yeah. It's
so
very...
now flesh that out a little bit for people, because I feel like they're going to hear that on its face and maybe not necessarily following this on a day-to-day basis. What the hell does that mean?
Okay, so Cale Makar, defenseman for Colorado, is also having a great year. He's about 7 points behind Josi in terms of the point scoring race. First of all, let's just go ahead and say it: the Norris Trophy is the best defenseman trophy. However, it is most often whatever player finishes with the most points. It is rarely about defense. That's been proven. It has nothing to do with defensive metrics. You can throw all your defensive metrics at me all you want. It has nothing to do with defense. It is about offense. Having said that, Roman Josi is having a better offensive year, but Cale Makar had all this momentum and all this like kind of talk about him going on in the first 3-4 months of the season, that it was kind of like a done deal. Now, Roman Josi's coming on late and is better than him now. Is it enough momentum? Is he going to... It's like this guy's been leading the race the whole way. He's 3/4 of the way through the race. He's been leading. Roman Josi's coming on late. I don't know that he's going to catch him. I think... I mean, obviously, if I were voting, Josi's the winner hands down. I just know that these NHL awards, when they get voted on, they don't always go the way you expect.
Well, actually, that does not sound familiar to the NFL, because they go exactly the way I expect every year in the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's not like all right. So with the Jonathan Taylor.
Yes, the Colts running back.
Where there was all that, like, is he going to get the MVP? And we all knew that was never actually going to happen.
Conspiracy theory. This was the QAnon of the NFL for a hot second.
Yeah, that was like never going to happen. This actually could happen. You could actually see Roman Josi have the most points in 30 years by a defenseman and not win the Norris. It would be scandal. It would be insane. I think there would be no... He would have such a grievance.
We got to write letters to our congressman? How do we fix this?
But, I think that it won't happen, and I think if Josi has the finish to his season that I think he will, it'll be in the bag.
Think about the fact that he initially was not part of the All-Star team.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's insane.
Yeah, he wasn't voted into the All-Star game.
So we feel it's a high percentage chance that he gets stiffed.
Right now, I'd say it's a 40% chance he gets stiffed. Still, he still has the advantage, but I mean,
that doesn't sound confident to me.
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, last year, UC Saros had a crazy good year for a goaltender. Didn't even finish in the top 5 in Vezina Trophy voting. And that's voted different. That's GMs that are voting on that. I don't know if they're even watching the games, but the Vezina Trophy, he was like top in save percentage. He was great in high danger. He was great in all these situations. Didn't even finish in the top 5. So.
Just do away with all the way that these things are voted on. This is like Jeff Simmons not getting the Pro Bowl, not because he lost the fan vote, but because he lost the player and the coach's vote. Like, I don't know how the hell that happens. It makes no sense to me. They got the Kings tonight, the Preds do. 9:30 puck drop. Alex Daugherty at Alex Daugherty1 is where you need to be following for all your Preds insights and analysis. A to Z Sports.com is where you can read his fine works, and the On the Preds podcast Sunday nights.
Can I just add in real quick? I think we need to start talking about a Filip Forsberg statue.
You're not funny. That's not funny. Don't laugh at that.
Right next to the Pecorine one.
Oh, man.
Am I wrong for that? Do you think I'm wrong for that?
For what?
I don't like the statue thing. Like, this is the only old man sports opinion that I have.
I think you're wrong for it, and I think that you should let people just have nice things. Just let them build whatever they want to build. If these Oklahoma fans want to build the Baker Mayfield statue, just let them do it.
No.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? I'm with Alex. I've officially changed my stance on the Baker statue.
It's like, to me, it's the thing with the banners and the Predators, like people who are saying that they're hanging too many banners. Why do you care how another team decorates their arena?
No, I mean, the Miami Heat have been doing that for years. Like, they've got a retired Heat jersey for Michael Jordan in the rafters at American Air. Well, it's not called American Airlines anymore. But you get my point.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I'll let it go. I don't know why I'm like this. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks a lot.
Winners and losers of the sports weekend. That's next. All right. We got winners and losers. What do you mean? Oh, wait. Right when I'm starting to talk. You want to do something real quick?
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Why do you try to do this professionally, man? I'm not down for that.
Find the right balance.
Well, yeah, okay. Like, I understand. But I think it's more fun if we let people kind of see how ridiculous what we're doing actually is. So when they have no concept of the fact that Lucas is screaming in my ear, wait, as soon as I start talking.
Believe me, I know how ridiculous what we do for a living is.
Okay.
Never will lose sight of that.
So I want people to be in on the joke instead of me awkwardly like tripping and falling over my words because they don't know that I've got you barking in my ear about something.
I like making you trip and fall over your words.
Well, there'd be plenty of time for that, bud. Speaking of tripping and falling. Yeah, you like that, do you? Winners and losers of the sports weekend we will get to momentarily. You want to tell people what you just brought into the studio to show me and help me understand what the hell Vanderbilt is doing.
Of all the things that they can address within their athletic department, they've decided to address the one thing that did not need changing, their logo. Vanderbilt has a new logo.
It's okay. So let me say this on the front end. All right. I want all of our biases out there clearly and obviously. I am clearly, based on the conversation that we just had with Alex about building statues to people who don't win championships, I'm a little crotchety about change, okay? A little crotchety about change. I feel like most people are like that about change in general. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, these can be debated on a case-by-case basis. But when you presented your phone with the new Vanderbilt logo on it, my first reaction was like, why? For who was asking for this?
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, listen, I'm not saying that Vandy shouldn't be trying to do different things. Like honestly, if I'm Candace Story-Lee and I'm thinking about, what she wants Vanderbilt athletics to look like under her. Now, I know this isn't just an athletic department thing, but still, I'm down for a little bit of a rebrand. Like, I'm trying to move on from everything that people generally associate with the anchor down and the V from a sports standpoint. Like, I'm good with a little bit of a rebrand. But honestly, the font that the new V is in, it makes me think of that terrible Washington Commanders W.
That's exactly what it looks like, except it's a V and it's black and gold.
I don't like that.
Vanderbilt Athletics put out a statement. A tweet, I should say. We've launched a refreshed visual identity designed to reflect our forward momentum and to build pride and visibility across the institution and athletics program.
It's just a V. Like, let's not get crazy. How many words did they just use to say, hey guys, we got a new V?
We got a new V.
Look at it. Like, I'm good with that. If you want to, listen, like I said, we're not a very professional operation around here. So far be it from me to give a highly respected academic institution like Vanderbilt University critiques on how they want to release a press release. But just tell me you got a new V. I don't need to know all the details about how the V came to existence, what the V means symbolically and philosophically, and all of these things. But yes, the V is new. We have a new V. Jonathan Schaefer of J. Martin Ramon just saw the V. He's making a face like he smelled something bad. Why can't we just I want to give Vandy a win. Just give him a win one time. Should we do winners and losers of the sports weekend that way? Give me the circus. Who goes down the trap door with Vandy? We will have to see. 615-737-1045. That's the number. There went Vandy's old logo. Or the new logo. I can't decide which one I'd rather send down the trap door. The winners of the sports weekend, I will have to say, Marcus Mariota, who we will address. What are you giggling about?
Schaefer doing a little jig back here.
Hey, doing a little jig. We got music. The music is there for dancing. He's pretending like he's juggling. Or I don't know what that is. Perhaps we should call HR. The winner is Marcus Mariota. Marcus Mariota, who's getting another opportunity to be a starting quarterback for an NFL franchise. Now, I don't care how you feel about Marcus Mariota. For some reason, nearly 4 years removed from him being the starting quarterback here, he is still a polarizing figure in Nashville, Tennessee. I can't make it make sense. All I know is that I am personally happy for a dude who I would like to see succeed in his NFL career. I don't care where he does it. I don't care how it goes. Well, I would like to see it go well, but you get my point. He's getting another shot. And it's kind of funny because the circle of life has brought Arthur Smith, one of the men who was responsible for benching Marcus Mariota, who ultimately parlayed that benching into an NFL head coaching job. Now they're getting a chance to find the magic again. I don't know if it's possible. All I know is it's a nice story for somebody who was here for a period of time and tried to get and helped get the franchise back on track.
My winner of the weekend are the Indianapolis Colts. Because 1 week ago, we were sitting here saying the Colts are screwed. Who are they going to get? Baker? Jimmy G?
Yeah.
Jameis?
Yeah.
That would be great. That would be great for the Titans. Who could they possibly get? Well, they got the former MVP, the guy who has not thrown for less than 3,900 yards, less than 20 touchdowns, or had a QBR worse than 92 in any of the last 3 seasons. He's also not been sacked less than 40 times in a season since 2017.
He's gotten the holy hell beat out of him, Matt Ryan, down in Atlanta. Like, the problems with the Falcons are not Matt Ryan's fault.
Right. And let me ask you, how many games do you think Matt Ryan has missed in his entire 14-year career?
Ooh.
How many regular season games do you think he has not been available for?
I'm going to say 5.
3.
3!
In 14 years.
He missed a couple like 2 seasons ago. Like he missed 2 games fairly recently.
Yes.
So for a period of time, for the better part of a decade, he had missed 1 game.
And it was in the first 3 or so years of his career. So you can say what you want about Matt Ryan, and at the age of 36, maybe he's broken down and you think he's petering out. All I know is this is the best situation the Colts have had at quarterback since Andrew Luck. And if that doesn't concern you even a little bit as a Titans fan, I think you're kidding yourself. The Colts are my winner of the weekend.
We will discuss later on in this show, as a matter of fact. Loser of the sports weekend. Marcus Mariota wins because he goes to Atlanta. You know who loses? Falcons fans. Man, what the hell just happened in Atlanta? You traded away to the Tennessee Titans. You let the Falcons Jarrell Casey you here if you're John Robinson, but you trade away the surefire Hall of Famer necessarily because his body was breaking down and the money was too much. Okay, fine. You can live with the Julio Jones thing. Matt Ryan has been an incredible representative for that godforsaken franchise, especially to come in directly after the Mike Vick scandal that saw him jettisoned from the team and end up in prison. Matt Ryan, and listen, Mike Vick found ways to redeem himself. He rejuvenated his NFL career. But Mike Vick meant a whole hell of a lot to the city of Atlanta, and that was an impossible situation that Matt Ryan was stepping into. I thought that he handled himself throughout this entire flirtation with Deshaun Watson so well. He even let them hold over $7 million that he should have had in his bank account until they figured out what the hell they were doing. Basically, Matt Ryan said, hey, you can keep $7 million while you figure out how you want to cheat on me, Atlanta. And now they ship off one of their greatest franchise players unceremoniously after they made him probably feel pretty terrible about the way that it came to an end there after all the things that he did. And you have Marcus Mariota with no offensive line and no wide receivers, and maybe Kyle Pitts is a fire-breathing dragon at the tight end position, but he's it. That's all you got. Losers, Falcons fans.
Kyle Pitts and Cordero Patterson standing in a room like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air looking around with no furniture.
What happened there? Unbelievable.
My loser of the weekend, SEC basketball, and I've been banging the drum all season. It's the best conference in America.
Oh, you got me to buy in.
The best coaches in America, top to bottom. Well, the Sweet 16 begins on Thursday, and only one SEC team remains. And if the Arkansas Razorbacks cannot knock off top-seeded Gonzaga on Thursday, there will be no SEC teams remaining in the NCAA tournament. Now, the Big Ten only has 2 teams left, but Michigan, the 11th seed, obviously knocked off Tennessee.
Down from 9, by the way. The Big Ten had everybody in it.
9, which I think was too many, but I will eat my words. Michigan beat Tennessee. I didn't think they deserved to be in, but when it came down to it, they got the job done. Tennessee did not. The SEC has 6 new head coaches this season. That's almost half the league.
Yeah.
No splashy hires, nothing too inspiring. I'm not saying they're bad hires, but all of them group of 5 hires, other than Georgia snapping up Mike White from Florida, which I'm sure Florida's not terribly upset about.
And I'm sure Georgia fans are just like, who?
But Missouri fans, are you that excited about snapping up Dennis Gates, who spent the last 3 years as the head coach of Cleveland State with one 20-plus win season? South Carolina fans, maybe you can be excited about Lamont Paris after what Chattanooga was able to do this year. Mississippi State grabbing Chris Jans from New Mexico State. They made the tournament. Florida hiring Todd Golden. San Francisco had a nice year.
So what the SEC did is they threw the money at the coaches who kind of got, who've made a reputation for themselves in the last, calendar year.
LSU made a nice hire, Matt McMahon out of Murray State. I'm shocked that he did not get a big Power 5 job earlier after winning 4 regular season titles with Murray State, and not just because of Ja Morant. They were one of the best mid-major teams in America this past season.
Yes.
If it's not for the Peacocks of St. Peter's, they would probably still be dancing.
Mighty
SEC
Peacocks still in it.
That's right. I'll be rooting hard for the Peacocks this weekend. But SEC basketball, my loser of the weekend.
We should give the winners to the St. Peter's Peacocks.
They are no doubt the winners.
Out of Jersey City, New Jersey, the Mighty Peacocks, who have wildly understated uniforms for being the Peacocks. I find that interesting.
That's a good point.
615-737-1045, winners and losers of the sports weekend if you want to jump in. When we come back, however, we are going to get into a discussion about a program-changing commitment at the University of Tennessee. That news also broke in the middle of our show yesterday, and now we have since had proper time to gather ourselves. We'll discuss that coming up next.
It is 11:03. Good morning. I'm Lucas Panzica. Big change in the AFC South on Monday. The Indianapolis Colts have their quarterback, acquiring former Falcons QB Matt Ryan in a trade for a third-round pick in 2022. That deal led to Atlanta turning around and bringing in former Titans quarterback Marcus Mariota on a 2-year deal worth over $18 million. That reunites Mariota with his former offensive coordinator in Nashville, Arthur Smith. In other NFL news, the New Orleans Saints brought back quarterback Jameis Winston on a 2-year deal, and running back Leonard Fournette, after a visit with the New England Patriots, will remain in Tampa Bay, signing a 3-year contract. Vanderbilt Athletics coming out with the new logo on social media just minutes ago. At VU Commodores on Twitter is where you can go see it. The statement from Vanderbilt Athletics: we've launched a refreshed visual identity designed to reflect our forward momentum and to build pride and visibility across the institution and athletics program. Massive news for Tennessee football on Monday as Josh Heupel secured a commitment from 5-star quarterback Nico Iamaleava out of the 2023 class, and Long Beach, California, the number 4 quarterback in his class, the number 7 player in the country. That's per 247 Sports. Iamaleava, the highest rated Tennessee commit since 2015. Tennessee football starting spring practice today. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Welcome in on this Tuesday. It's hour number 2. Welcome back. If you've been hanging out with us so far, we're happy to have you. Lucas is making it happen back there behind the scenes. We got volunteer commitments to talk about. We will be joined by Steve Wiltfong. Lucas, I'm terrified of that last name.
Wiltfong. Just say how it's spelled.
Wiltfong. Wiltfong is going. Steve Wiltfong, who's one of the nation's foremost recruiting experts, going to join us to talk about Nico, another last name that terrifies me. I nailed it yesterday, too.
Yeah, you had a first try yesterday. Go.
Iamaleava.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. It's just I'm in my head now.
It's really not that hard. Like, it's not as hard as people make it out to be. The name looks scary, but if you just sound it out.
Iamaleava.
Yep.
I can do that better than Wiltfong. 615-737-1045. That's the number. Get to your phone calls here in just a second. But the implications of this signing, and understanding that it's for the 2023 class and there are still years to go, and you have quarterbacks on the roster at present that can make you feel good about the trajectory of the University of Tennessee. And by the way that you keep that recruit is by putting on a fantastic show with Hendon Hooker. I mean, I've seen people out there talking about him as a preseason Heisman-worthy candidate. And, I mean, based on the numbers that they were putting up last year, it's reasonable to expect that they may be able to make a candidate out of him.
As a dark horse.
No, there would be. I mean, listen, Bryce Young is still playing college football.
Caleb Williams.
There's a lot of good players out there.
There's a few names above him on that list.
So I would say, but I mean, when is the last time a Tennessee quarterback has sniffed even that?
Oh, Peyton Manning.
That's what I'm saying.
As far as even being remotely in the Heisman conversation.
Just anywhere near it.
Like
in the same room as the conversation.
It's Peyton Manning, and nobody can convince me otherwise.
Like physically down the hall from the conversation.
Maybe going into 2016, I could see some, Josh Dobbs maybe could make a list, but they weren't putting up the numbers offensively that Tennessee did last season.
Why are our lives in sports run by lists? Can anybody tell me this? Mock drafts, quarterback rankings, recruiting rankings. Why the hell is our entire industry, this multi-billion-dollar with a B, borderline trillion-dollar industry, why the hell are we all governed by lists?
Because we can't do math, so we just list things.
God, that's so true. That hurts. That's a little too close to the bone. Let's go to the phone lines. Chris is in Kentucky on this Tuesday. Hello, Chris.
Thanks for taking my call. And I believe the reason for the list says they're just filling that 24-hour news cycle.
I know. We're all doing an infomercial between games, Chris. That's really all I exist to do. It's true.
Yeah. My winner of the week, and it might have been last week, is Ben Roethlisberger. Because in 5 years in Canton, he doesn't have to share the stage with Tom Brady now.
You know, it's such a great point, Chris. Thank you for the call. And I had heard somebody bring that up in passing a couple of weeks ago. Ben Roethlisberger, who enjoyed the end of the season more, understanding that they were going nowhere in the playoffs. Just nowhere. There was nothing left to give for that awful Pittsburgh Steelers offense. And yet Ben Roethlisberger is basking in the glow of Hynes Field in the final home game of his career. You know, rightfully so. Ben has had a Hall of Fame worthy career. But then Tom Brady immediately swoops in, or Adam Schefter swoops in on behalf of Tom Brady and steals the spotlight from Ben. Now Ben can be up there. I mean, I would have to look at who else has retired this year that would be in that same conversation.
No other quarterbacks.
No, and nobody who was like surefire. Like I know Andrew Whitworth just retired after the Super Bowl.
Is T.Y. Hilton?
T.Y. Hilton's not retired.
Is he not?
No, he's playing again. He just put out a tweet like 2 months ago, a month and a half ago, that he was going to run it back with the Colts. Is T.Y. Hilton a Hall of Famer? Is that what you just did?
Well, he's a free agent.
He's still a free agent?
He is a free agent.
Oh, spicy. Not retired. Bill is in Clarksville up next. Hello, Bill.
Hey, Buck. Good to talk to you.
It's good to have you.
First time I've called your show.
Lovely. Thank you.
I do listen to you quite a bit, though.
Well, we appreciate
My
that.
loser for the week. The wife and I were watching. We caught the end of the Tennessee Belmont game last night, the women's.
Yes.
And it had to be the last 3 minutes of the game took 20 minutes.
Oh, it was awful.
It seemed like every time somebody touched the ball and it went out of bounds, the referees had to go over and look at it on the cameras. It was like the referees don't have any confidence in themselves to just go with a call. I mean, I understand we want to get it right, but, you know, it's just ridiculous how long it takes, and it just completely ruined the flow of the game.
Oh, I cannot agree more, Bill. Thank you for the call, because I was watching the Lady Vols and Belmont at Thompson Bowling Arena. We had Coach Casey Alexander for the Belmont men's team. He was road tripping over to Knoxville with Rick Byrd to watch the ladies' second round to advance to the Sweet 16. By the way, congratulations to Kelly Harper and the Lady Vols. It's shameful that we made it an hour and 11 minutes into the show without mentioning that. But that is a massive win for them to return to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2016. It's been a long time for a program that is very, very proud. And I hated it for Belmont because they've never been. And they seem to have control of that game until that. I mean, what a shot. What a shot by Tennessee in the final minute of play to take the lead and to hang on through all of those interminable reviews. They ended up winning 69-66 over Belmont.
70-67 final.
I'm looking at the wrong box score. Regardless.
But credit to Belmont, too. I mean, that last season was their first ever tournament win, right, in the first round. And to turn around and do it again and be just a seconds away from the Sweet 16, back-to-back OVC titles, what Bart Brooks has done with the Belmont women's program is phenomenal.
Deserves all the credit in the world. But I could not agree more because that game was on before primetime. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. This is winding down at about 7:45. I'm going to have the last 15 minutes for any kind of reviews that would take, and then I can start primetime on time at 8 o'clock. And it was getting like 8:15, 8:16, 8:20, 8:22. Basically, I'm like, this is never ending. They keep stopping play. And honestly, like, people who are coming to college basketball, whether it's men's or women's, late in the year, how much more does it give you an appreciation for the officials in whatever your day in, day out sport of choosing is? Because college basketball refs are the worst. Just the worst. It's so much, it's at such a lower level than NBA officiating. And again, I do, even though it doesn't sound like it, I do have tremendous respect for these people, for these officials who go through this, because it's a very, very difficult job. I'm completely understanding that I could not do that job at any kind of a high level whatsoever. But it is so appreciably worse when you get to March Madness and when you get to these conference tournaments on either side because of how big a drop-off it is. Drives you insane. Anyway, Congratulations to Kelly Harper. Congratulations to the Lady Vols. Sarah Puckett, who hit the go-ahead 3 last night. It was a really, really fun basketball game until the officials kind of, bogged it down at the end. When we come back, Steve Wiltfong of the 247 Composite is going to join us, and we'll talk about Nico Iamaleava. Hit both the last names in one tease. We're going to talk about this program changing commitment for the University of Tennessee coming up next. All right, we got a verdict before we get to Steve Wiltfong of 247 Sports. We got a verdict on the new Vanderbilt logo. Jim Wyatt, the great one of TennesseeTitans.com, has decided he is out on the new Vandy logo. Let that be the final word on all of these things. Steve Wiltfong joins us now to talk about the other university, well, one of the other universities in the state of Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, quarterback in the 2023 class, five-star quarterback in the 2023 class, committing to Tennessee yesterday. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, guys. Doing well, man, but not doing as well as your friends in Knoxville. What a day for Tennessee to stamp that commitment publicly. Obviously, it was in the works behind the scenes, but everybody was able to celebrate it yesterday. And a terrific day for a program that really, has maybe shown some flashes over the last decade or so at times, but hasn't been able to, be a contender or play at the level that Vols fans of past are accustomed to. It's been a long time since y'all have won 10 games in a season, but I think, the way this new coaching staff is recruiting and landing a player like this certainly forecasts for some brighter days down the road.
Well, this is, you're speaking their love language now, Steve, because this is exactly the kind of thing that they want to hear. What can you tell us about the recruitment of Nico throughout the course of this process before he ultimately landed? And we know that it's not like a hard and fast commitment. We know that there's considerable amount of time for things to change. But what can you tell us about this young man's recruitment?
Well, it's been a long time since you guys have had an elite quarterback talent under center, and he checks those boxes, and with it was that kind of recruitment, right? You had all the nation's best programs involved in recruiting this young man, or nearly all of them. Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State were programs that he was excited about at various points in his process. Had an offer from Notre Dame. Every school I mentioned he had visited before. But I think with Tennessee, I was with Nico in January. He's like, I signed my first autograph in Tennessee, when he went to a game. Hell, he may never have to buy another meal in Tennessee, in Knoxville, if he, does what he's capable of with that program and helping y'all get back to where you want to be. He's uber talented. He's got a natural arm with easy arm strength, can make every throw on the football field. And he's still developing physically. There is a little bit of rawness to him, but he is an exceptional athlete. He is a world-class volleyball-type talent. Comes from a talented family. He's going to be a big young man once he gets through that Tennessee strength and conditioning program. But right now just has all the tools to make all the throws you're asking for on the field. He's a fluid athlete. You look at how prolific quarterbacks have been under Coach Heupel. This is a young man that's got a chance to be very effective and prolific in Knoxville.
Steve Wiltfong of 247 Sports is with us here on 104.5 The Zone. We're talking about the commitment of five-star quarterback prospect Nico Iamaleava to the University of Tennessee yesterday. So the comps are out there, Steve, and I don't know how much you traffic in them, but if you had to do a player comp for Nico, who does he kind of project as based on college football players past?
Well, I know our comp at 24/7 Sports is former Heisman winner Marcus Mariota, who got a pretty good payday yesterday from the Falcons. I think like $9 million a year.
Oh yeah, we're intimately familiar with him here in Nashville.
Yeah. So, obviously, if he can duplicate the kind of success Marcus had in college, you don't care what he does on the next level, right? So,
no.
I just think that this is a young man that's, he's not close to his ceiling, and he's already flashed a ton of ability, and a guy that's extremely competitive and has that multi-sport background. So, we'll see how he continues to blossom. There might be a quarterback or two in this class that are already closer to their ceiling, but when you think about Nico and Coach Heupel together, it gets you excited, and people want to talk about the various reasons why this young man picked Tennessee. But I'm telling you, if Tennessee didn't have a head football coach that could move the ball, score points, and develop quarterbacks, none of the other stuff matters. This is a young man that wants to play in the NFL and play for a long time, and college football now is an opportunity for some of these young men to take advantages of some other things, but the end goal is still to play at the highest level and really capitalize. And Coach Heupel's track record and the relationship he had with that staff, Coach Halsey, Coach Golish. I know Coach Halsey and Coach Heupel, they've been building a relationship with Nico for 7-8 months now.
Right.
So this wasn't something that just popped at the end, so he believes in those coaches. He trusts those coaches. The track record of those coaches is something that's exciting, and it makes you feel good about having Nico ranked where we ranked, because it's a development game. We're projecting the NFL draft, and he picked a school that I think he can go there and be really productive and prolific, and then with that, hear his name called early in the NFL draft in 4 years or so.
Steve, what is the domino effect of having him commit early enough to let them get as good a possible class around him throughout the next phases and cycles of recruiting, specifically with somebody like Carnell Tate, the wide receiver out of IMG Academy, who was very active on social media after Nico committed to Tennessee?
Well, Tennessee has a great chance at Carnell Tate. He's been there a couple times already, and again, is excited about the Vols. I think Tennessee, they could be in pole position for Carnell Tate right now. Notre Dame's up there. He's from Chicagoland. South Bend's 90 minutes or so away from where his parents live, and Notre Dame's had a heck of a run of late. And then Ohio State with what they've been able to do in producing wide receivers. But there's an excitement around Tennessee. There's an excitement around the trajectory of the program, and they seem to have everything moving in the right direction to be in the mix for some of these blue chippers beyond that. And I think Nico's commitment, it makes it cool to look at Tennessee again. Tennessee had the nation's number 17 ranked recruiting class on 24/7 Sports last year. I think they landed some guys that could be really good for y'all down the road. Justin Williams, Caleb Webb instantly come to mind for me going into Georgia, and landed some guys that could really come back to haunt the Bulldogs down the road. But you look at the class, there's not like an elite guy in that class from a recruiting ranking standpoint, but now you turn the page to 23 and you're talking about Nico, and you're talking about Carnell Tate, and they're in the mix. They're trying to take a swing at Kyle Casper now, and they love Aiden Mizell and Noah Rogers at wideout, and they hope to sign a big offensive line class, and Caleb Herring is a top 50 edge rusher from in-state. That's would be an exciting pickup as well. They just seem to be in on some more exciting players, and anytime you have a bell cow like Nico trumpeting your class, it gives you another inch on the trail, and you never know how those inches are going to add up when it comes time for a young man to make his college decision.
Steve Wiltfong of 247 Sports is here with us on 104.5 The Zone. He's the director of recruiting at Wiltfong 247 is where you can follow him on socials. I mean, my EP Lucas went to the University of Tennessee. He's glowing back there based on all of the things that you're saying about his program. Steve, he needs a cigarette throughout the course of this interview. It's been
my man. Hey, the SEC is a grown-ass man league right now, so it'll be interesting to see how Tennessee keeps building this roster. But when you get QB1 figured out, that's a nice step in the right direction. But you got to be dominant up front at the point of attack on both sides. You got to be big, and you got to be physical. And so we'll see how Tennessee continues to build around the line of scrimmage. But, I like some of these skill players that they have coming in last year's class. Addison Nichols was a big recruiting win. And then, guys like Caleb Herring and those guys in the fold this cycle, to go alongside the Tyree West of the world last year, you're excited about your program trajectory as a whole.
Last one for you, Steve. As you mentioned, the SEC being a grown-ass league, I mean, you kind of look around at what everybody else is doing to bend over backwards to get the likes of Arch Manning and Malachi Nelson, the other two massive quarterback prospects in that 2023 class. What is the latest on those two as we sit here right now?
Well, Malachi Nelson's obviously in the fold for USC. He committed to Lincoln Riley in the summer to Oklahoma, and then, that's who he wanted to play for. And when Lincoln Riley took the USC job, he's out there in L.A. That was an easy decision to follow, Lincoln Riley to USC. Arch Manning, he's going to visit Texas this weekend, and was at Georgia this past weekend. And then you got Alabama, Florida, and LSU and Ole Miss also in the mix. And I kind of think that Alabama, Georgia, and Texas are positioned well for him. And had another great visit to Georgia, Texas this weekend, trying to get back to Alabama, trying to see Florida for the first time. Wants to go back and hang out with Brian Kelly and them and see what they're about at LSU. And then Ole Miss, he's going to go back there as well. But you just look at the way that all those teams are recruiting and what Tennessee is trying to make up ground on, right? Before this year, LSU had 3 straight top 5 classes. I know the results weren't what they wanted on the field, but they dealt with a lot of injuries and a lot of guys opting out. But they still played hard and had some big wins at the end of the year. Texas A&M just signed the highest-ranked recruiting class in 24/7 sports history, and they've had 4 straight top 10 classes as a whole under Jimbo Fisher. Love the trajectory of the Aggies. Georgia's perennial in the top 5, including 2 number 1 classes. Alabama's been number 1 9 years under Saban in the recruiting rankings and in the top 5 every other year. So that's what Tennessee's building up against. And I know recruiting rankings don't dictate maybe what one young man does, but collectively, particularly in the SEC, they've been pretty strong.
He's Steve Wiltfong, the director of recruiting for 247 Sports. Steve, thank you so much for spending some time and making us a little smarter about this latest quarterback commitment over there in East Tennessee.
Yeah, man, what a fun time to be a Vols fan, and we'll see what y'all run out there this next season, and then how this recruiting class comes together. But Nico's a big piece, and it's exciting. You guys have a great day. Thanks for having me on. Look forward to doing it again down the road.
247sports.com is where you can check out all of the great work being done by Steve and his colleagues. Steve Wiltfong at SWiltfong. 247 is where you can follow him. You good back there? When's the last time somebody talked to you like that?
It's been a while. I'm a little flustered.
I was about to say, you're blushing. Looks like you're a little hot and bothered talking about this program-changing recruiting class that could potentially result because of mighty Nico Iamaleava. I like saying his name now that I'm comfortable.
Yeah, once you get the hang of it.
Yeah.
He checks all the boxes, right? I think one of the biggest ones, and I don't want to sound like old man shaking fist at cloud here. But,
you've already started with checking of boxes, so you might as well move forward from there.
But the character aspect of everything, I think that is important more than ever now, right? With all the attention you get in recruiting and all the money that you get when you arrive on campus, I really do think that that's as big a factor as it's ever been in high school football recruiting.
Yeah,
and it seems to be not an issue with Nico Iamaleava as a team captain, a guy teammates gravitate towards, a multi-sport athlete. Take it for what it's worth, but that has been a big part of every evaluation I've seen of him from recruiting analysts is the character aspect of it is rated very, very highly.
And listen, I'm not discounting that at all because you do have to factor in. I mean, you're talking about different levels of wealth and success and attention that are going to be directed at kids, right? So you have to have a fundamental understanding or as close to one as humanly possible of how this guy is going to handle that kind of attention, success, financial gain, things of this nature. We have no idea how to know that for certain, right? But you need to have a you need to be as rock solid on the character assessment of these guys now, especially when so much of what you're going to do is going to be predicated on the fact that you already have him, quote unquote, in the fold, even though it's not like hard and fast official signing yet.
But physically, it's all there as well. I mean, arm strength, size, speed, escapability, timing. He's a great volleyball player, athleticism, all the boxes.
All of the boxes.
All the boxes.
Every one of the boxes. Boxes and lists. Sports talk radio, kids.
Now, I will say, though, for Tennessee to return, you want to see these type of recruits coming in on the defensive side as well.
Now, just wait a minute. Let's say there. Let me not lose you on recruiting rabbit hole, okay? He said that you have a comp to college Marcus Mariota coming into your program. Now, I think that the name, rightly or wrongly, in our listening audience, the vast majority of our listening audience, Titans fans, Nashville, understand who Marcus was as a pro. many of you have let that color your opinion of him as a college player. Marcus Mariota was one of the most electric college football players that I have ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, we're talking Heisman Trophy winner, national championship contention type of star. Tennessee just got one of those, apparently. Now, maybe that's unfair expectations to foist upon somebody so early in his career. Because, that's really high billing. I feel like that needs to be reemphasized, particularly here in Nashville, because I feel like Titans fans have kind of gotten away from, oh my God, this dude is incredible. You just got a Marcus Mariota at Tennessee. That's incredible. That's crazy. 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to react to any of what you just heard from Steve or to the commitment, the commitment of Nico Iamaleava to the University of Tennessee. By the way, out of a high school that Titans fans are intimately familiar with. Long Beach Poly is where Jarrell Casey went to high school. It's where Jayon Brown went to high school. They have been a hugely successful California high school program, producing a lot of great prospects and NFL products. That's something to keep an eye on as well. This dude's got pedigree all over the place. And theoretically, he's going to be your future at the quarterback position. That's got to be really exciting. I mean, you heard, I feel like Steve wouldn't gaslight a fan base that way, especially because he knows what kind of fan base this one is.
Yeah, and he's not based out of Knoxville, right? That's not his.
No, he's based out of Indianapolis.
Right. He covers the recruiting landscape as a whole. So it does feel genuine, but I do think you need to see some of that stuff pop up on the defensive side of the ball before you start talking about national championship contender.
Sure. 615-737-1045. And what Tim Banks is able to do with the understanding, I mean, we've talked a lot about the recruiting that the University of Tennessee has done, how to kind of feel about it in year one under Heupel, given all of the mitigating circumstances around this. I don't need to, go into reruns around all of that for you guys to understand the importance of this. But the defensive side of the ball is going to be critical because at some point you have to stop somebody.
I mean, look at the two teams in the national championship last year, Georgia and Alabama. Alabama, you have the high-flying offense with the Heisman candidate, the Heisman winner at quarterback. But who do you have on defense? You have Will Anderson, arguably the best player in college football last year. You have Jordan Battle at safety. At Georgia, you have stars all over the place.
Top to bottom.
And Nakobe Dean and Jordan Davis. And we could just keep listing NFL players on that roster.
They smothered them. It's the best college defense I've ever seen in my life.
So, it's fun to outscore people, but to get that next level of championship success that Tennessee fans want, there is more work that needs to be done on that side of the ball. So that's one of the bigger question marks with Josh Heupel. One of the question marks is being checked off right now in recruiting.
You and the check marks in the boxes, what are you doing today? Joey is in Kentucky, wants to weigh in on this Tennessee conversation. Hello, Joey.
Hey there. I don't know if this has been mentioned or not, but I've just thought about, eventually all this NIL will be regulated.
Sure.
But, you bring some of these kids in, and Joshua Dobbs comes in mind for me. You add in their athleticism plus their intelligence, whatever they're going to college for, some of the college will be the NFL for some of these kids.
Yeah.
They come in, and depending on how much money they make, they'll think, okay, well, I'll just this will be my stepping stone or that boost that I need, and then I'll get my degree, and I won't have to take all these hard lumps and serious injury or what have you later on in life. I'll just get my lump sum now, I'll get my degree, and then I'll go on and live my life, marry, have children, and be done. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but I'll hang up and listen.
I thank you very much for the call, Joey. I'm fascinated to see how it changes things, right? Because guys, what was the conversation about? Let's keep it local, right? With Cade Mays specifically. If he was to come back to the University of Tennessee, it would have to be in the ballpark of third or fourth round selection money on an NIL deal. And it didn't seem like he was going to get that. And he felt good about his pro prospect projections as a day 2/day 3 pick. And he said, okay, I got a better chance of cashing in the way that I feel that I can cash in at the next level. For some guys, that may not be the case. And you're asking college kids who are constantly reinforced in the fact of, or in the idea of belief in self. So I think that you're going to say, it's probably not going to happen very often where you're saying, hey, 21-year-old, take a step back and, maybe you're not going to be the best wide receiver in NFL history right out the gate. Maybe you're not going to make that kind of money, but you've done well enough and, say, invested soundly and smartly enough where you can legitimately have a fantastic starting point for the next phase of your life, whatever that looks like, because of the money that you've been able to generate in college. We have no idea how that projects out. It's only a small portion of a larger conversation about the impact that NIL has. But I mean, the NFL's not concerned about it, right? Like the guys who are going to go pro are going to go pro, and you're going to get enough people to think that they're on the fringes, and enough people are going to have conversations with coaches, scouts, agents, and otherwise that you're going to continue to have your minor league system, which is basically all that college is at this point. Free minors.
I do wonder if it makes the recruiting process maybe a little more short-sighted for some student athletes, right, that look at what they can get at the college level before they even worry about what's going to happen 5 years down the road. When you're 18, it's about right now, these next couple of years. What can I get right now?
Who's my guy, the Texas high school player who just...
Quinn Ewers,
who just said, piss off with my senior high school season.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Ohio State. And he's already burned his transfer, his one-time transfer. That's done.
Yeah, he's back at Texas.
Because now he's at Texas. I mean... You just dangled a, six-figure, maybe seven-figure payday in front of a high school junior and said, but you could go back for senior year. What?
Right.
What are you talking about?
It's not regulated, no, but you can't blame schools for taking advantage of it while it's not.
Oh, hell no. No, because, listen, the schools were never going to have a problem with this anyway, and we can talk about why on the other side, get into a little bit of that portion of the conversation. Your phone calls on this as well, 615-737-1045. We got NFL free agency, Marcus Mariota, Matt Ryan, and other Titans-related topics on the horizon as well. Jump in if you like. I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone.
The Buck Reising Show is powered by Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Go to springhillac.com.
Did you see this statement from Cooper Kupp? This is wild.
On Robert Woods?
Yeah. I just came upon this from an hour ago.
The Rams are like mourning the loss of Robert Woods on their roster.
I'm telling you, you need to go read Jordan Rodrigue. I talked about this on 3HL the other day. I think I mentioned it a little bit on Monday. The story she wrote for The Athletic. She covers the Rams. She's how many? Let's not play a visual gag on an audio medium, but like, how many people remember the female reporter that Cam Newton laughed at a press conference because she was asking about route concepts?
That was Jordan?
That was Jordan.
Was she covering the Panthers at the time?
She was covering the Panthers at the time for a local newspaper. She parlayed that into the Rams Athletic gig, and she's one of the best writers out there. She really is. It was a whole thing. She even went through the go back and dig up old tweets type of thing, in the middle of the Cam Newton stuff. She's, I'd love to get her on. She's incredibly busy, but she's a fantastic writer. Anyway, should I read this Cooper Kupp thing? I haven't read it yet. This is a segment we like to call reading, kids. There aren't any words that will do Robert Woods the justice he deserves for what he has meant to me over these last 5 years. The standard for what it means to be a pro about your craft, the standard for the sacrifice required to elevate the people around you to be their best, the standard in walking the walk. There is no doubt in my mind the incredible impact he has had on the transformation of the LA Rams for the better. Success is found in the mud, and the only way to affect positive change is by getting your hands dirty. I've appreciated his respect for this and his willingness to get his hands in the dirt so he could leave his fingerprints on this organization. The culture that we live by, the attitude we take to the field, the mentality in which we prepare, all molded and shaped thanks to Bobby Trees. Thank you for everything, Woody.
He said Bobby Trees?
He said Bobby Trees in the statement. What the hell? Is this guy I don't know much about Robert Woods other than the Titans just traded for him and that he's been a good pro. But, this is wild. Titans fans out here tweeting at Cooper Kupp now. You can reunite with Bobby Trees anytime. Come on down to Tennessee.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. He's got a pretty good setup right now. That's crazy to me. This is the kind of player that the Titans just added to their roster, and we'll get back into some Titans free agency stuff later on this hour. But the title of the article that I keep yammering on about, unpacking the Rams trade of Robert Woods to the Titans, an emotionally loaded move driven by finances. It goes into basically the fact that the Rams just ripped the heart out of their football team. Aaron Donald is the star. Matthew Stafford is the upgraded quarterback. Cooper Kupp, arguably the MVP of the league, should have been had Aaron Rodgers, had he played a different position, basically. And all of these guys coming back to the fact that with the acquisition of a high-profile player in Allen Robinson, right? They're not a worse football team for adding Allen Robinson, but everything that drives that team from the inside out, a lot of it seems to derive from Robert Woods and the way that he handles himself around his teammates. And when I think about what this locker room here in Nashville has lacked, it's tough for me to kind of assess that, largely because of the fact that we haven't been in locker rooms. I'm going on 3 years now, guys. I haven't been in a locker room as an NFL reporter. I know that nobody cares about that, and it's difficult for me to explain to you how important that is just for a fundamental understanding of the guys that you cover day in and day out. But I don't know what that locker room is like anymore. Because I used to spend 45 minutes a day, 3 days a week, and then for about an hour and a half on Sundays after games in the locker room talking to those guys. I don't know a lot of the new players. I'm hopeful that with the removal, largely, of COVID restrictions in the NFL, that we can start to resume work practices as normal with locker room access in some way, shape, or form. Because I'm fascinated to see the impact that this guy has on AJ's a third-year pro now. He's basically a veteran. That's veteran status in the NFL. But doesn't it feel like A.J. Brown would not feed off of a guy like Robert Woods in a way that is unquantifiable? Doesn't it feel like that locker room could use that kind of presence? That's who Delaney Walker and Jarrell Casey used to be for this franchise. I don't know who's taken that role, right? Derek is that, but he's not out front with it, right? He does it through his performance on the field with the way that he prepares himself, not verbally. And he has moments, fine, but like it's not. You don't want to force him to do, or not force him to do things that he's not comfortable with. You just get my point. Like that's not necessarily the role that he served, even though he is clearly a leader, as is AJ. Alpha mentality, right? But with clear and obvious things that he's been dealing with, that he has addressed mentally, that can sap a lot out of you if you're fighting those mental battles day in, day out, night out, whatever the case for A.J. Brown might be. And it sounds like he's mentally in a much better place than he was a year and a half ago. What they've added in Robert Woods is not just a great football player, but apparently somebody who this team, who the defending Super Bowl champions have relied upon since he was drafted by that organization to keep them together and to keep them moving forward. A unifying force. That's a huge deal. And also he run blocks, so Vrabel loves him. When we come back, we're going to talk about a fresh start for a familiar face with the Atlanta Falcons, the reunion of Marcus Mariota and Arthur Smith. I want to know why Titans fans still care so deeply, one way or the other, about Marcus Mariota, and I'm going to do that by talking about it next.
It is 12:01. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica. Matt Ryan is an Indianapolis Colts. The newest AFC South quarterback was acquired in a trade with the Atlanta Falcons as Indianapolis sends Atlanta a third-round pick in 2022. By the way, the Falcons taking on a $40.5 million dead cap charge by trading away Ryan. That's the largest in NFL history. The new quarterback in ATL, former Titan Marcus Mariota, brought in on a 2-year deal worth over $18 million as he reunites with his former offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith. Around the NFL, the New Orleans Saints brought back quarterback Jameis Winston on a 2-year deal, and running back Leonard Fournette will stay in Tampa Bay, signing a 3-year contract. The Nashville Predators will continue on the West Coast tonight, taking on the LA Kings. A late puck drop at 9:30 as we come off a day where Filip Forsberg breaks yet another franchise record, this time for goals in a season. Scored his 35th of the year in last night's 6-3 win over the Anaheim Ducks. 2 goals, 3 assists for Filip Forsberg last night. Matt Duchene also reached 34 goals on the year. That is 2 records in 3 days for Filip Forsberg after surpassing David Legwand on Saturday for franchise goal or career goals with the Preds franchise. Vanderbilt basketball's postseason run continues in the NIT quarterfinals tonight, an 8 p.m. tip-off at Xavier. The winner moves on to the NIT semifinals at Madison Square Garden to play the winner between St. Bonaventure and Virginia. And they'll be doing it with a new logo. Vanderbilt Athletics putting it out on social media earlier today. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Final hour already. We must be moving quickly on a Tuesday. Hope you guys are having as much fun as we are over the course of today's show. Lucas is back there making it happen. We got Matt Ryan, Marcus Mariota, all other manner of quarterbacks to discuss in this hour, and an interesting change of, I don't want to call it power shift in the AFC South.
Dynamic.
It is an interesting dynamic in the AFC South, and we'll talk about that momentarily. Your phone calls are welcome. 615-737-1045. Jump in if you like. 615-737-1045. But just to kind of refresh something that is manifested in the middle of our show today, we do get so lucky with how many different things happen during the course of our show. Well, Bowling said something that I think he was filling in for me. This was a while ago. And he said, you don't have to prepare anything at all. You just show up and news breaks. Well, yeah, it's kind of nice, you know. We tend to over-prepare, which is it gives us enough content to get through the week. But, you know, if you want to sprinkle a little breaking news into the middle of the proceedings, we're grateful for that.
We'll take it.
Sure.
We had a whole cover just for a peek inside the curtain. Our whole conversation about why the Titans should cut Julio Jones. And no, we'll push it. No, we'll push it. No, we'll push it. They're not going to do it,
Then they cut it
until June. And then it's like, oh, wow, that's a waste.
Yeah, listen, I'd rather that be the case than show up here at 9:59 as I'm prone to do, and then have nothing to talk about for 3 hours or have to think of something on the fly. It's a terrible way to do our jobs. I'm already unprofessional as it is. Although today, Lucas texted me, I need you to show up. We have something exciting coming at some point. I don't know if there's any kind of timeline. I don't want to put pressure on Lucas, who's trying to reshape or re-image our show. But Lucas asked me to show up merely 20 minutes early for work today, and it was pretty close.
Big ask.
Pretty close. And then when I got here, you weren't ready. Anyway, something that manifested in the middle of the show. Vanderbilt's new logo is, and again, for the third time in 2 days this week, I will say, Twitter is not the real world. So everybody who seems to be simultaneously on the internet dragging the new Vanderbilt Commodores logo, I don't know how much of the population that actually represents, or if it's just angry people on Twitter. But I'm laughing because, like, people who don't normally weigh in on things like Vanderbilt are finding the new logo. Like Roger Sherman of The Ringer, who is written in, I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say Vanderbilt's logo was the best thing about Vanderbilt athletics, and they got rid of it. feel like a lot of people are echoing that sentiment today.
Nobody asked for it.
But I don't want to be one of these people that's just like, hey, you can't do this thing because this is the way that you've always done this thing.
No, that's not what it is.
Why is it not that?
I don't know. I that is
one because I just got done getting yelled at because I'm a grouchy old man. I don't want statues built for players that didn't win championships. And there's going to be one in as deserving possible a situation. Pecorino is getting one outside of Bridgestone Arena. Baker Mayfield's getting one at Oklahoma, which I still think is laugh out loud funny, but whatever. And I'm the grouchy old man. So why should I not be the grouchy old man about this? I'm looking for reasons to not be a curmudgeon.
That's true. Earlier today, we were saying, who cares? Let franchise do what they want. Let them decorate their arena with banners however they want. So we were saying that. But
this does feel different.
It's different. At the same time, I've seen a lot of Vanderbilt fans negatively react to this. We mentioned Jimmy Wyatt. No Vanderbilt fan greater than the legend Jim Wyatt, who is against this logo. He said he's going to stick with the old one with the star. I like the star. I thought it was cool. And I've always said Vanderbilt has a cool logo and a cool color scheme. I know we talk a lot about their athletic department and all the issues that are over there, but that was not one of them. So I don't know. I feel like it was just a tone-deaf thing that the fans weren't asking for. And from what I've seen, the fans aren't all that excited about.
So they had apparently some kind of committee that they were getting feedback from students, and they just ignored the feedback. Based on, there's a Puka keeps tagging, one of our diehards around here. She keeps tagging us in tweets from people at Vanderbilt who were on this advisory committee. They're out here tweeting through it. How could they just completely ignore all of the feedback that we gave them about this particular situation? Which I would say, of course. Of course. That's how that went down. Because they have a new version. It's not just the V. Have you seen the version of the new star logo?
Yes.
I like that even less.
I like it much less
than the V. Jimmy's still out here on Twitter. He's tweeting. You want to talk about tweeting through it? Let me know when Tennessee freshens up that power tee, and we'll see how that's received.
That's what I'm saying. Can you imagine?
Oh God, no! If they change the tee.
I mean, and they've done that. The T used to be kind of universally the U T, the intersecting U and T.
No, everybody has throwback logos for
that's what was at midfield in Neyland Stadium for so many years.
Yeah.
So these things evolve, but my goodness, if Tennessee tried to modify that, I mean, Dave Hart tried to take away the Lady Vols name, and there was an uproar.
What the hell was he thinking? By the way, maybe that's just a product of retrospect, but I remember that was right around when I first got here.
Well, that's a perspective of somebody that just doesn't know that culture and community, because a lot of schools do that. They take the lady out of women's basketball. Vanderbilt are not the Lady Commodores. They're the Vanderbilt Commodores. Why put that in front of it? And I get that, but the Lady Vols, that's a special part of Tennessee's culture and history athletically, and you don't take that away.
Vandy, man. We find so many reasons. We try to find reasons to talk about them, and they never give us good reasons to talk about them. Other than, beating Belmont in the NIT. 615-737-1045 if you want to jump in on the conversation. If you're a Vandy fan out there, you've seen this logo and you want to react to that, we would welcome your conversation. Is comparing changing the power tee the same as talking about this change that they've just made with the Star V? I don't know if there's a better technical term that I'm not using on this, but we'd welcome your feedback. Steve is in Nashville, wants to chime in on the new Vandy logo. Hello, Steve.
Hey, how's it going, Buck?
Going well.
I called you when you first got your show and was happy that you got it, told you so, asked you to please cover some Vanderbilt. So
sure.
At least you're doing that right now. But I didn't see this. But I got to tell you, I love that star. They're not using that now. They're going away from it.
So they're not going away from it, but it looks drastically different. It is no longer the black star outlined in gold with the white V in the middle of it. It's a very, it's a much more modern looking situation. This thing looks like something out of Star Trek.
Oh, man. I'll go look at it when I get parts and I can get online. That sucks. I tell you what bothers me. And it's funny, I've just talked to my brother about it, basically, but the mascot, man, when they had the old man that was all muscled up, that mascot was pretty cool. This new one, I don't like it at all. Do y'all you notice this mascot?
I haven't had strong mascot opinions one way or the other, but it's the same principle. I understand what you're saying. Like, it's different from what it was, and whether you're down with getting change associated with your program and the things around your program. Like, I get why people don't want to change stuff like that.
Yeah, the new one, the new mascot is younger and thin, and it's just the old guy was all kind of older and all muscled up. He was pretty funny looking, but anyway, I didn't know. You're just breaking. I'm getting this news just now, so I'll go check it out.
Yeah,
love the show.
Go do that. Thank you, Steve. We appreciate the call. 615-737-1045. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about a familiar face to the Tennessee Titans. Just got a new home down the road with a former Titans offensive coordinator, now turned head coach. We also have to talk about Matt Ryan being the greatest threat in the AFC since Andy Luck. That's next here on 104.5 The Zone. Lucas just turned on my microphone, or at least turned on the way that he talks to me, and just laughed and then didn't say anything. What are you laughing about?
I was going to laugh about something with the reaction to the Vanderbilt logo and realize that we had 5 seconds till we came
Did you
back.
see this article on the Big Lead? This is wild to me. Vanderbilt announced a rebranding today that included changing the school's iconic logo. The change was met with ... negative feedback. Vanderbilt logo change met with shock and horror. It's like they put out something. Lucas said it's like they put out something pornographic.
Yeah, that might
as
be
the new logo.
Those words might
shock
be a little,
and horror
might be a little strong. I don't know.
I don't know why this is so funny to me.
I don't know about shock and horror.
No, you know what? I'm with them now. I think I'm going to go all the way the wrong direction. I'm going to say it is shocking and horrifying that Vanderbilt would dare change their iconic logo. Shock and horror. Why do we have to go to the extreme right out the gate? Right out the gate. Just be like, no, not really down with it. Like, just give me the old one.
Yeah, that feels dramatic.
Which is fine. I'll take the dramatic. Speaking of which, we haven't heard from Cheeseburger in forever. Hello, Cheeseburger.
What's going on, Buck? How you doing today?
I'm well, buddy. Thanks for the call.
I'm well, too. Hey, Buck, before I get to my question stuff for you, you ought to go to Kroger and get the new Mountain Dew hard seltzer. It is very good.
That sounds like that sounds like a hangover, Cheeseburger. I think that sounds like a thing that would put me physically down.
Sounds like a Four Loko for adults.
It's very good, but hey, I just want to say that I was at the Vanderbilt basketball game this past Sunday, and man, what a fun atmosphere, fun game to watch. Man, I'm glad Vanderbilt got that win, and I hope they get a big win tonight against Xavier. I'm all in it. And about their new logo, I like the star better, but this one, I think you're right, Buck. I agree with you. It's more like out of Star Trek. I mean, I like the star better, but, it is what it is. You got to try something new. We all got to live with it. So, hey, and also tighten up, baby. I will sing y'all rap song one day this week for the Titans if you want me to.
Listen, Cheeseburger, your lyrical musings are always welcome around here. Thank you for the call. 615-737-1045. Lot there to chew on from Cheeseburger. Yeah, Vandy's got the NIT game against Xavier tonight. We'll see how you think Jerry Stackhouse is going to be asked about the new logo. What a terrible press conference question.
Well, no, he was on Twitter, pushing it out there, so he's going to have good things to say.
Well, and he may well feel that way. Let me not project my feelings onto Coach Stackhouse.
Yeah, Jerry Stackhouse isn't going to step up on the podium and be like, I don't like it.
I wish he would. Just please. Just somebody say something.
If he just was silent, said, next question.
Next, please. That would be way better. So let's talk about, because I've gotten tweets. Talk about the Mariota thing, damn it. Stop teasing. Okay, this is a perfect example of this. Because now I know Rich, who's tweeted the show and said, quit teasing and get to the Mariota segment. Why are we still so obsessed with this guy? Now, I get why I'm talking about it. Because you guys are still talking about it. But we're coming up on 4 years removed from Marcus Mariota being a starting quarterback here. And still, you say his name, and it evokes some kind of reaction in Nashville sports fans that I, for the life of me, cannot come to grips with. He's getting another opportunity in Atlanta. He's going to rejoin Arthur Smith. And the irony in that is that benching Marcus helped Arthur Smith very, very much get a head coaching gig in the NFL with the Falcons. Now, they have botched their situation royally. I think Atlanta, more than any other team, has overplayed their hand this offseason because of the way that they just lost one of the best things that's ever happened to that franchise in Matt Ryan for a 2022 third-round pick. And, by the way, did you see the cap hit that they have to eat? Matt Ryan, the trading of Matt Ryan creates the largest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL. They're already strapped for cash. And they've been trying to work around Matt Ryan's monster deal, but they trade him away yesterday. They have to. Lucas, have you read this yet, or can we play a quick game of trivia?
Go ahead.
Thank you. That was quite dramatic.
You can't say, have you read this yet, and not tell me what you're talking about.
Okay. Matt Ryan's cap hit.
I know what it is.
Do you know what they have to eat on the dead cap hit?
Yes.
You know the number.
40.5.
$40.525 million.
It's the most by like $7 million.
Yeah, it's not even close. They clear $9 million in cap space for free agency as they start to look for new quarterbacks, but they have to eat $40.525 on the nose. So Marcus Mariota goes down to Atlanta, 2-year deal. Money is, it's basically the kind of contracts that Jacoby Brissett is getting at this stage in his life. I think Brissett just signed somewhere as well.
Cleveland.
Well, behind Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm. So if a Watson suspension comes down, there's your starting quarterback for a few games.
Jake Brisket, back in action. Spicy. So Mariota signs down there, and I didn't want to talk about it last night on primetime. Like, my producer there, producer Reed, had to kind of push me into it a little bit because he said, people want to talk about this. And my only argument against it was, but why? For what? Why is this, even if you have still some kind of attachment to Marcus Mariota, why can it not be that he failed here as a second overall selection, but did serve as the bridge to a new and revitalized version of this franchise that is year in and year out in the last 4 seasons, one of which Marcus was a part of. This is a legitimately contending NFL franchise in ways that it was not during Marcus's time here, in ways that it was not during the era preceding Marcus. He helped get them to the place where they are now, but it also can be, okay, it didn't work out. And you can feel a certain kind of way about it. You don't have to hate him. You don't have to love him. You can just be like, okay, on to the next. Ryan Tannehill saved the trajectory of that year. They ended up in the AFC Championship game. Whatever you feel, whatever your feelings about Tannehill now, he saved your asses, and that's quantifiably so. That's factually accurate. There is no disputing that after coming in, week 7 was Ryan Tannehill's first start. It was a dramatic game at Nissan Stadium versus the then San Diego Chargers. Ryan Tannehill and Jeff Simmons, who made his debut in that game as well, they helped save your ass. And so for Marcus, I'm curious to see whether Arthur Smith can revitalize his career or not. But it doesn't impact my life one way or the other than the fact that I worked with this dude. He's the first NFL quarterback I've ever covered in my life. His first year in Nashville was my first year in Nashville. We're the same age. I have a not any kind of vested interest, but just because I liked the guy when I worked with him, I'm happy to see him go on and get another opportunity. But other than that, I don't get why people have any kind of attachment to him at all. Vibe Runners on YouTube says, don't you root for other players after that leave the team you like? You've never done that? I mean, sure. I'm not saying that you can't, but there's almost it's not if it was just that, I would get it. It's this weird obsession around him, and it's polarizing around a guy who said 0 interesting things throughout the course of his career. And really, it was more interesting to hear him. I looked up some interviews last night. Well, I shouldn't say that. Producer Reed did, to give me some clips for the primetime show. And Reed came up with this interview that Marcus did when he became a quarterback for the Las Vegas Raiders about not liking who he was becoming here in Tennessee. I found it fascinating. Here's the audio.
So when you look at the Marcus Mariota now, what do you think the biggest difference is from you sitting here today than, say, 24 months ago?
Well, I look at it and I've learned a lot in terms of the business standpoint, but at the same time, I think I just learned about being myself. I think so much of the expectations that I had in Tennessee kind of carved out somebody that I didn't want to be and somebody that I didn't really recognize. And to be able to see that now from a different vantage point and a different perspective, and to come here and just enjoy football again, enjoy being on the field, having fun with these guys, has made my life just a whole lot happier and just a lot more enjoyable. So, taking that experience, I truly understand that was kind of part of my journey. Everyone's journey is a little different, and I can use that as I go forward, and we'll see what happens with my career.
How does that audio hit you? Like when you hear Marcus say that, what does that? How does that hit you?
I mean, I get it. It wasn't exactly sunshine and rainbows when he was here. I'm sure there was a lot of pressure to come back from injuries. The more injuries stack up, the more pressure you probably put on yourself to be available, and maybe that leads to more. I don't know, but the way things went in that last year where it just felt like nothing could go right for him, yeah, I could see that, right? I mean, it's not like he's going to look back at that and say, no, yeah, my time in Tennessee was great. It was I loved everybody there, it just worked out that I ended up here. Sure, it was tough.
Is it too cold if I say that audio hit me as Marcus Mariota's happier as a backup quarterback?
No, I don't think that's a crazy takeaway. I could see the pressure sort of being lifted and making you enjoy football again.
Because, I mean, pressure is inherently part of the job as a starting quarterback. Like the Falcons play here, apparently, in 2023. That's a part of their home opponents for the next season. And I think it's completely reasonable to not expect Marcus Mariota to be the starting quarterback of the Falcons by the time they come and play here in Nashville.
Everybody's different. Think about what Ryan Tannehill has said about his time coming to Tennessee. I remember his words when he signed his deal with the Titans, when he signed his latest contract, and he said...
The extension.
Yes, when he told John Robinson, thank you for making me love football again. It's the same thing but flipped, right?
Yeah, but you never heard quite that, right? Like that he was he didn't like the person he was becoming. And maybe these are things that he felt.
Right.
I have no idea.
All I remember him saying is saying he thanked the Titans for making him love football again. Yeah, he never said anything about the person he was in Miami.
Listen, his existence in Miami sounds like a living hell as far as like expectations and, I mean, how he did not achieve. Marcus Mariota had a more successful stint as the Titans starting quarterback than Ryan Tannehill did as the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback. They made the playoffs, but he didn't play. Like Marcus won the playoff game. But again, I want to understand why this guy is so embedded in Titans fans, one way or the other. And it may just be because there is still a loud minority of Titans fans who, because they are so loyal to him during his brief stint here, that it evokes a hugely negative reaction on the other side of things and probably creates, just like the political situation, the political divides, right? Where you just can't, you can't criticize, or you can't take the side of somebody who's not on the same side as you. And two, you can't criticize anybody internally because God forbid that happen. It's one of the most frustrating things about the political system that we have set up, but whatever, far be it from me to talk about that. Anyway, let's talk about Matt Ryan, shall we? Lucas alleged that the greatest threat to the Tennessee Titans in the AFC South since Andrew Luck has now just been traded to the Indianapolis Colts. Matt Ryan comes in as a former MVP candidate, although Cam Newton was a former MVP candidate when he went to the Patriots, for example, but we're talking about different kinds of wear and tear. Matt Ryan has been one of the most brutalized quarterbacks under center in the last 3 years because Atlanta has done him such an injustice with how they let that offensive line fall apart in front of him, given that he has next to no mobility. And in kind of trying to process this and looking at the situation for Matt Ryan, you can't say, well, Matt Ryan removed from the system is better than Ryan Tannehill removed from the system. Like, I think that's such a dumb thing that people do. The quarterback that plays wherever they play, that's how you need to judge them. You need to judge them about how, or based on how they produce with what's around them. And we haven't seen Matt Ryan in Indianapolis yet. So it's tough to kind of tell. And we know that it's not necessarily a plug-and-play situation, even though Matt Ryan is as good an option as Indianapolis could possibly hope for. Like, they were just, you're not going to do any better than that. In fact, I find it laugh out loud funny, and we'll get to this when we do the dumbest thing in sports tomorrow. I find it so ridiculous, not ridiculous, I find it funny that Baker Mayfield, who requested a trade out of Indianapolis, looked at the Indianapolis Colts and said, or out of Cleveland rather, looked at the Indianapolis Colts and said, that's my preferred destination. And Indy said, no thanks. No thank you. We want the quarterback who's 10 years your senior and is an actual statue in the pocket. We will take our chances with this quarterback who still statistically produces at a high level. Although I saw our buddy Zach Lyons at Football and Other F Words put out a really nice, contract details have just come out on Robert Woods, by the way. Titans, let me look at this just quickly. Don't believe the Robert Woods trade is official, which means that the Rams picked up his roster bonus. The trade is not yet official, so the Titans just saved $3.5 million. That's a nice part of that deal. Wow. Okay, back to the Matt Ryan portion of the conversation. 615-737-1045 if you'd like to jump in. I think that Matt Ryan is the best quarterback in the division. I really do. Now that he's a part of the AFC South. I understand that we cannot remove them from the systems and the circumstances which surround them, but I think if you ask me today which quarterback that I would prefer to have under center on a, game for your life or whatever, and the options were Tannehill or Ryan, I would say to you Matt Ryan is somebody who I trust more, who has a more consistent body of work. He's been in a Super Bowl. He has been able to perform at the highest levels, even as the game very much has evolved to move away from guys like Matt Ryan. I still think that on the playing of the quarterback position, and statistically this would bear out, Matt Ryan is the superior player. I don't know that I would rather have Matt Ryan in Tennessee versus Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. Because in Tennessee, the offense is very much constructed around the running back, and also the quarterback's mobility is a critical part of how they're able to score in the red zone. You remove that largely when you add Matt Ryan to your offense. But Indy can find ways to make it difficult on you and push you within the division. So if you're asking me who is the best quarterback in the AFC South, not that you were, but I'm going to tell you anyway, I think that that's Matt Ryan on face value. Be curious to see how Indy kind of adapts what they're doing or what they have been doing to fit what is a guy who's very, very much entrenched in what he has been the last couple of years. John is in Franklin, wants to chime in on this. Hello, John.
Hey, good morning or afternoon. Hey, you said that Matt Ryan was a candidate for MVP. He won it in 2016.
No, forgive me, then I misspoke. I know that he won MVP. That was the season that they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots.
Okay. Hey, while I got you, I'm Stephen Young's brother. I appreciate you having him on that day.
Hey, I appreciate everything that Stephen does for Nashville. By the way, Home Street Home is the organization that Stephen Young, our friend, is a part of. Thank you very much for the call, John.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, homestreethome.org is where you can go and find out all the great work that Stephen and his support staff and his family are doing for the homeless community, the homeless crisis, frankly, here in Nashville that's been exacerbated by the pandemic and inflation and everything else in between. We either need to call Stephen and I need to do that because what he said to us very much resonates. The fact that people call him all the time around the holidays, and then when, periods like this is when they could really, really use the support. So we'll have to link up with our buddy Stephen Young at some point here in the near future. I'm looking at the Matt Ryan situation and saying that, because I've just gotten a text, and your take is so stupid. No quarterback fits the Titans offense better than Matt Ryan. It's Shanahan's offense. Matt LaFleur was on that Falcons staff. Yes, I know. Thank you very much for all of your great commentary. Your take is so stupid. I love that. Here's the thing. Matt Ryan's MVP year was under Kyle Shanahan, but there is no disputing that even under Kyle Shanahan, mobility was not a part of Matt Ryan's game. The thing that helped that Atlanta Falcons offense and that helped Matt Ryan is that they found ways with, I believe it was Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman, mighty Indiana Hoosier Tevin Coleman, that allowed them to produce the kind of running game that Shanahan now has in the offense. You know who else doesn't move well? Jimmy Garoppolo. Don't tell me that Matt Ryan is a perfect fit for what they do here in Tennessee. It is absolutely asinine, up and down. But I still think that Matt Ryan is the better quarterback.
Well, he's got a running game again.
Jonathan Taylor. That offensive line is curious, though, because they're not what they've been in the past couple of years.
But they're better than what he's had.
This is true. I think almost everybody in the last 3 seasons has had a better pass protecting offensive line. Maybe not Cincinnati because they're literally getting Joe Burrow hurt on a regular basis. RJ in Phoenix is up next. Hello, RJ.
What's going on, Buck? Good morning, fella. It's 51 people in the chat. Y'all need to hit that like button. We don't give a damn about Marcus Mariota. The Green fan in the chat, you're a jackass. Okay, I can't go violence anymore.
Now wait, RJ, people don't know what you're talking about. You're playing 2 different games. We have a Zone TV chat. We have a Zone TV chat where the radio show is streamed on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And if you so choose, you can fight with people like RJ in the chat. Like apparently there's a fight that's broken out.
Get in there with me. Yeah, the Green fan, he's a real jackass. But he still need to hit the like button. Where's Darrington? I'm off work today. I've been sick. I got the flu, so I want all the smoke.
He's been laying low. Thanks for the call, RJ.
I know, because he ain't got no quarterback. He can't come on here and talk stuff because you're gonna run up on him about Seattle.
You think his quarterback? You think he's going to be a Broncos fan now? You think his Seahawks allegiance is done? I bet it is.
Well, I text him. He said he's gonna root for the Titans this year.
Oh, lovely. Well, then he's going to root for Ryan Tannehill, which is just the knife that you keep twisting. RJ in Phoenix, always a pleasure. And yes, you can fight with RJ and many other people in the Zone TV chat.
He's the only one that takes the chat to the phone line.
No, Darrington does that sometimes too. Like we have, and this is why I love, we get, Darrington and RJ are like Zone staples, just as like, who's it? Kenny the Mailman, Cheeseburger. Like we have all kinds of Scott and Beth Page, Sue Ann when she deems it worthy to come off the mountaintop and deliver just a scorching hot take that delights me. But we have people who give other callers etiquette lessons every time they call in, which RJ in Phoenix is very, very much one of them. All right. Last call for phone calls. If you want poll questions to update, that's next. Let's wrap it up, shall we? Oh, we had a lot of fun today. It's a very diverse show. If you missed any of it, ooh, I like this. Who is this?
The Raconteurs.
Very nice. If you missed any of the show, whether it be Alex Daugherty, whether it be Steve Wiltfong, who told you how the University of Tennessee is back, baby, with the latest 5-star quarterback commitment, you can check out the podcast. It's the Buck Reising Show in your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get them. We got it for you. If you would do us a kindness of leaving us maybe a 5-star rating, a nice review, or even if it's a nasty review, as long as I get the 5 stars from you, I don't much care what you say about us. But we like that you like the show. Most of you like the show. Last call for phone calls. If you want in, 615-737-1045. Lucas, I feel like there was something left that we needed to address today, but I don't want to do part of tomorrow's show. I think we got to everything. We talked about the Robert Woods, the trade not being made official yet, which means that Los Angeles is on the books or has to take his roster bonus on the chin for $3.5 million that the Titans don't have to pay. That's a big dub. We were kind of talking in the commercial break about how egregious it is that Carson Wentz just got traded for 2 third-round picks and Matt Ryan went for 1. There's a lot of different stuff in the NFL that's funky right now. I'm fascinated to see how this AFC South plays out and whether it is actually a competition between the Titans and the Colts or if there's some kind of miraculous sophomore leap, whereas there's usually a sophomore slump in the case of most quarterbacks. If Trevor Lawrence with Doug Peterson is able to be salvaged in the same way that we kind of talked about Marcus Mariota a little bit before, it completely degenerates and you're degenerates and then you're dealing with Marcus playing for Jake Brisket money. 615-737-1045. Let's go to Alan in Gallatin before we wrap things up on a Tuesday. Hello, Alan.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Well, thank you.
Got a question. Now that we have a pass-catching tight end in Austin Hooper, they've signed Swain. What are you guys' thoughts on Ferkser? To me, he seemed like he'd always get, 2 or 3 catches, crucial third downs. Just wanted to see what you guys have. Thanks.
I'm good. I'm all set. I don't need to, I like Anthony personally. But no. If you're going to keep Tommy Hudson on the roster, if you're going to sign Austin Hooper and Jeff Swaim, even though they're 1-year deals, there's no need to have another veteran tight end on the roster. Ferkser's going to cost more than he's worth at this stage in his career. He may go on to play well elsewhere, but I get the sense, just to kind of answer the question, Alan, I get the sense that they've moved on and that it will be more about addressing that position through the draft in some way, shape, or form. By the way, John Robinson at the Texas A&M Pro Day today, looking at one of the top interior offensive line prospects after being at Northern Iowa, where Trevor Penning, one of the top tackle prospects, was working out yesterday. Pro Day season, quickly to the polls.
I'm going to make you an offer you can't refuse. Because the polls have closed and the votes have been tallied. It's time for a poll update. And he's a good boy. Buck Reising Show producer and correspondent, Lucas Panzica.
Presented by Two Rivers Ford, powered by Ford, driven by people. Who are the winners of the weekend? Puka says, anyone who watched the tournament. So many good and surprising games. Mahogany says, anyone who didn't make a bracket.
Yeah, no kidding. Those St. Peter's, who are probably the correct answer to the winners of the sports weekend, and still playing, by the way. Onward with the Peacocks. They have completed that Tennessee, Kentucky, really every SEC team and Big Ten team that didn't make it through. There's one SEC team remaining and 2 Big Ten teams remaining after having the most and second most teams get into the tournament. Yeah, St. Peter's, congratulations to them.
Who are the losers of the weekend? Mahogany says anyone who did make a bracket. Bennett says anyone who thinks the women's tournament doesn't have upsets. The women's tournament has actually been insane this year.
I would be lying to you if I said I've watched a ton, but I certainly
still
did.
Alive.
I certainly, I know that IU advanced because Don Davenport thought it'd be funny to text me that IU was moving on in at least one sport of prominence. And Indiana women's basketball has carried my athletic department for years. But regardless, certainly last night between Belmont and the Lady Vols was exciting. Lady Vols advancing to the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2016.
And Neil says Cleveland fans' moral compass.
Oh, yeah, man. We haven't even dived either way.
Divin. I think it's Divin.
I don't think that's right at all. Maybe we should call Dan Lust to tell people that Deshaun Watson's actually not innocent of all of the things that he's being accused of. He just didn't get indicted by the grand jury. And all of that for $230 million guaranteed.
It's a lot of money.
That's a ton. He got a big old raise.
Should the Preds pay Filip Forsberg $11 million per year this summer, as that was projected by The Athletic? That is what his game is at right now, at $11 million per year. 71% say yes.
Just a little bit of news in the middle of that. Zadarius Smith has just agreed to terms with the Vikings, 3-year deal, $42 million base, worth up to $47. As far as Forsberg's concerned, our buddy Alex Daugherty said that if he makes it to the open market, maybe he hits $11 million, but the Predators can pay him $10. They have, what did he say, $25 million in space next year? So they can sign Filip Forsberg for big-time money when the biggest contracts on their books right now are $8 per year with Duchesne and Johansson.
What is the Colts ceiling with Matt Ryan? Wild card, AFC South title, or Super Bowl? 68% say the wild card game. 26% say an AFC South. 6% say a Super Bowl.
It's a tough one, but I'd say it's probably wild card for the first year. We'll see how that. I don't know how many years are left up on Matt Ryan's contract. I need to look that up. But yeah, I still think he's the best quarterback in the AFC South right now.
Who would you rather have as your quarterback, Tannehill or Matt Ryan? 74% say Tannehill.
If I'm the Titans, I'd rather have Tannehill. You need that mobility. 7 touchdowns on the ground in the last 14 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons. For Ryan Tannehill with his legs, that is a big part of their offense that you do not have with Matty Ice.
And can Arthur Smith salvage Marcus Mariota? 53% of 1,000 votes say no.
No. Look, I'm telling you, that's pretty divided. And that's not a small sample size. That's 1,000 people.
Those are the polls.
All caught up in the Falcons' future backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota. I'm kidding. I wish him continued health in some form or fashion. And success. We are done for the day. Blaine and Mickey are next. They'll keep you entertained. I got you tonight on A to Z Sports Prime Time or tomorrow at 10 a.m.